20th Street in Fife. And by Outdoor Emporium, right next to Safeco Field here in downtown Seattle, you find all of the componentry that you see in front of Duane here. Duane, we've got I would imagine that the day that you just described with your family was probably there would be some float drifting involved, I would imagine, or maybe not.
No, absolutely. And actually, for the 3 or 4 times I've hit the hump tulips and fishing for Chinook, I've probably utilized float drifting more than vertical presentation. Just mostly, and the reason I want to talk about this is because the type of water we're fishing and finding success. Now, the water's low and clear. There's no disputing that. And there are ample numbers of fish in the river. And if you want to catch dark fish, you fish the slow, very non-moving water in a vertical presentation. And you can probably hook as many as you can. Your eggs will, draw in. And that can be a fun day. If you want to catch fresh, bright, sea lice-covered moving fish, you got to look for those current seams. You got to look for that moving water. These guys are not hanging around the hole all that long. No. They're moving upriver. I mean, I'm catching quite a ways upriver. Mid-river, when you're catching sea lice-covered, fresh, bright Chinook with the tails on the sea lice, they've been in the river 24 hours. So finding those fish is not a problem if you know where to fish and what to look for.
Right. Yep.
Now, vertical presentation works great, and we've talked about it a ton on the show, Joel, over the years, and I'm talking about putting my inline sinker below my float, and everything fishes in a straight vertical line,
up and down,
and is moving through the drift, and that works great. That being said, if I'm fishing an area that I can recognize, I have like ledges and drop-offs, and the top end of the hole where the moving water is might be 3 feet deep, and it drops off a ledge or it gets down into the hole, and it goes to, say, 7 or 8 feet deep. And if I set my vertical float stop at 5, there's a couple things that are happening there. I am dragging my bait on the ground. We'll have to fix that when you get done. Dragging my bait on the ground at the top end of the hole, and when it swings off the ledge, I might be 3 feet above the fish. And they may not come up and get it because it's too high. And with the water being as low and clear as it is, they're basically, I can guarantee they're tucked on the bottom. They're within that bottom foot. And you got to get it right in their pie hole if they're going to be enticed. So how do we do that? How do I cover both shallow and deeper water? Well, we're dragging lead. Float drifting, bobber dogging if we're in the drift boat heading downriver is not a new concept. The way I like to rig it is what we're going to talk about today and what you're looking for when you're fishing it to have a productive presentation. The Lexa 300 for me is a fantastic reel for fishing Chinook in the river. It's got a 22-pound drag. It's got a fantastic gear ratio, and it works really good to put some leverage against those big, strong fish. I like to spool that up with Maxima braid, 50 to 65 pound, whatever you choose. Either is going to work. I like in this clear water to run a top shot of monofilament. I will get by with the 25-pound Ultra Green. You can also use the Fluor Clear if you can find it. The Ultra Green gets it done. Now, with as low and clear as it is, I will go with Maxima fluorocarbon leader. The 25-pound Maxima Ultra Green leader does work, and I've caught plenty of fish on it. It's getting so clear, I've opted to switch to the Maxima. It's the 30-pound. I like to have a little extra abrasion resistance. Remember, Chinook have big, sharp teeth, and you don't want to run something too light. Plus, if you get a fish you want to release and you have strong enough gear, you're going to get that fish in sooner than later, hoping not to wear it out, especially if it's a wild fish, so you can release that fish unharmed. I run a double hook setup. I'm using the Mustad Octopus. It's a 3/0 hook. If you can find barbless, go ahead and buy the barbless. If not, simply pinch them. And the stinger hook I run is actually a size 1/0. It's the Mosquito, Owner Mosquito, only because it's such a sticky little hook, and the angle on it seems to really get in and do a nice job as far as making sure I get a solid hookup. Size 5 or 7 barrel swivel, because we are rigging this basically like drift fishing, but it's drift fishing with a float. Because it is bobber fishing, we're going to have our bobber stop, and I'll talk about placement on that, but the Bomac bobber stop egg is what you want to run, because if you run a top shot of monofilament, the Dacron does not hold on the mono very well. You want to get these egg stops. And then, of course, our floats. And with this low clear water, generally if I'm running a vertical presentation, I'm using a 3/4 ounce float. I'm using a 5/8 inline sinker and kind of upscale. But these low water conditions require very little weight, especially because you're dragging. And I get to scale down to a 5/8 or a 3/4 of an ounce Bomac float. I like to use the torpedo floats for this because they glide so nicely in the water. They have the grommets in on now, both ends. That makes these floats extremely durable. If I want to be uber stealthy, I'll go with the clear floats made by Momac because those are fantastic and they work really well with this setup. So how do we rig it? Like I said, I got the braided line on and I put a top shot on. I'll run that top shot outwards of 15 to 18 feet. I want to have enough adjustability in my system. If I do hit a deep hole, I don't want to go suspended. I want to make sure I'm still dragging. So on the monofilament is where that egg stop goes. That is what my float comes to rest against. Okay, and I'll show you how we're going to set that further up the line. I like to run the beads on top of my float just to be sure that if I have something out there that I can see that indicates that my float has maxed out against the stop, because sometimes you may have a situation where your float is maybe halfway and your stop is up there and you're not quite completely up against your stopper. So I put something in that indicates to me that float is completely against the stop. I run a bead underneath the float to protect the knot. Here's my size 7 snap swivel. And of course, it's just the leader tied directly to the swivel, not a slider. And we're snapping the lead right onto that like we would for drift fishing. Run about a 24 to 28 inch leader. This is the fluorocarbon 30-pound. And there's my double hook setup. Nothing too fancy. It's a big egg loop. I like to go 13 winds on the top and about 7 on the bottom, which gives me a big wide open area to get those eggs in there. And you leave that other hook bare, and it's going to be a lot of solid hookups for you. Now, the key here, if I'm fishing a hole that's about 6 feet deep in my guesstimation, what I am trying to achieve is ensure that my lead is dragging on the bottom. And if I'm fishing it too shallow, if my stop is up the line and it's set at 4 feet, I'm going to know that because my float is going to be completely vertical. This will hang just like a vertical presentation if I allow it to do so. If I'm fishing water 6 foot deep, I want to have this bobber stop set at least 2 feet above that. So I'll go 8 feet from the lead. Remember, the lead is dragging. The bait is not what I'm concerned about. It's the lead that's dragging. So I'm going to run my bobber stop 8 feet up the line, okay? That way I ensure that the lead is dragging. Now, if the river is flowing from my left to my right and I cast out there, if everything is working appropriately, the lead's dragging behind the float and the float is pointing downriver. That's what we want. If we're fishing vertical presentation, we want to see our float straight up and down. When we're dragging lead, it has to be pointing downriver, okay? If the water is shallow, say 3 to 4 feet, all it does is elongate out and drag behind. As we get into deeper water, it's going to go a little more parallel, perpendicular, but it's okay as long as the float's still dragging. The whole key here is that this is self-adjusting.
Right.
You do not have to worry about, am I too shallow, am I too deep? It's on a pendulum, and it will adjust to the contour. That's why when you're fishing ledges and drop-offs and current seams, it's in contact with the bottom on the top shelf. As it rolls off the ledge, it stays in contact with the bottom. How good does it work? A couple weeks ago, I fished vertical presentation for 45 minutes without a takedown. I walked over the boat. Jordan says, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm going to get my float drifting rod." 5 casts in a row, 5 hookups. Same piece of water.
Yep.
Okay. It's recognizing there's a ledge out there because of what my float was doing when I was vertical and deciding to make sure I'm getting it right in their grill, and it was successful. So the nice thing is you don't have to worry about even making our stick leads anymore. Bomac gives you a nice variety. They got the 6-inch, the 4-inch, and the 3-inch. You can get the 6-inch and cut them in half, or you can buy the 3s as well. Either way, clip those on. If it's dragging too slow, grab a smaller one. You'll never have it drifting too fast unless you're just fishing way too fast to water. But, this is no different than what we do for steelhead. This is no different than we do for summer and steelhead on the small scale. I've been using it when I was guiding. For years, I put my clients on float drifting because I don't have to worry about them making sure they're adjusting their float.
This is a technique that will be effective throughout the course of the entire year. Of course, you can find all the gear in front of Duane at Sportco, Sporting Goods in Fife, and at Outdoor Emporium in Seattle. By the way, look very soon again for the Wild Country end cap.
Yes, we will get that back in place.
Reconstruction going on there. But in the meantime, just go into Sportco, go back to the tackle counter, go to Outdoor Emporium, and ask for the components here. You can find them throughout the store. Let's take a quick break, Duane. When we come back, we're going to pose the question one more time. We have some contributions here from the text line, and we'd like to hear some phone calls. 800-829-0950, 206-286-9595. Wild Country Nation, what exactly does fishing mean to you? Give us a call when we come back to Sports Radio 950 KJR and Comcast Sportsnet Northwest.